G'day everyone and welcome to the Brett Lee podcast. Thank you so much for listening in. As always in the podcast, we're chatting about the latest news. It's the summer of cricket, the Ashes. Of course, we want you, the public, to get involved. The best way to get involved to contact the podcast anytime on the Brett Lee podcast at news.com.au and of course through our WhatsApp group. And the link to the WhatsApp group is in the episode notes. If you're feeling generous, give us a tap right now if you're listening it on your phone. My 2IC, Brad McNamara, former New South Wales swashbuckling all-rounder and the producer at Fox Sports Cricket. Buzz, welcome.
Yeah, g'day Binger and g'day to everyone else out there. How good is it to finally get some cricket after all the build-up and would they come and wouldn't they come and the amazing storylines through the first 2 days have just been unbelievable. And I guess you'd have to say at the moment, England are just a train wreck.
Well, I think you're being generous. Australia, they lead, day two, stumps that is, by 196 runs. But let's go back to the first ball. Mitchell Starc steaming in. Let's have a listen.
Oh, bowling first ball! The in-swinger from Starc. Immediate breakthrough. The roar grows up. Australia can't believe the start they've got away to. And it's all happening at the Gabba.
It was all happening at the Gabba. Mitchell Starc, under a lot of pressure, delivers a ball on leg stump that swings back, takes a leg peg. Burns gone for a duck. Australia, they are on top.
Yeah, that was Adam Gilchrist calling that. Lucky he was ready. You wouldn't want to be
dozing off
or not ready for the first ball. Only the fourth time in around 4,000 test innings a wicket's fallen on the first ball. Unbelievable start. And, if you ask most batsmen, that was Rory Burns who lost his pegs. Where, if I could ask you for a delivery that I'd like to get off the mark with, it'd be a leg stump half volley.
Half volley on leg stump, please.
Even though it did swing a little bit from
It
Mitchell
shaped,
Starc.
yeah,
It did
shaped.
shape in. He just fell all over it and pegs all over the floor. And poor old Rory Burns in the dressing room. 3 minutes into the Ashes series, wondering what the hell went on there.
Chin up, pack your bags, go have a shower. That's what Mitchell Starc would have said.
I tell you what, hasn't he had a stinker so far, Rory Burns? Dropped an absolute sitter today, day two off Dave Warner, but we'll get to that later. But it's a cruel game, cricket.
It is a cruel game, but I tell you what, it can also be a fun game and a very exciting game. And there are a lot of firsts. Obviously, Pat Cummins being announced the captain and given that opportunity. Alex Carey was given his cap by Adam Gilchrist.
I think the prime thing about this cap is there's a lot of value placed on this, but not for a moment is there any sense of entitlement that comes with it. It doesn't make you any more special than anyone else in society. But what I will say is if you play with humility, if you play with integrity, honesty and complete commitment to this group of people here, and I know that you will, and a sense of fun, the people in society will ride with you through the highs. And probably more importantly, when the lows and challenges come, they'll pick you up and carry you. So, mate, I wish you all the very best. I cannot wait to watch this journey unfold. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's commentator for Fox Sports and, of course, Australia's one of the best all-rounders, Adam Gilchrist. Lovely words.
Yeah, fantastic. And great for Alex Carey and his family especially, who couldn't make it to the ground because of the recent COVID dramas, to be able to watch that live on TV, almost as though they were in the huddle. Great for all the viewers that were watching as well. The access to the players these days is amazing. And to see Alex Carey, who had a great day, by the way, day one.
He did.
He had a dream first day, didn't he? To get your cap off one of Australia's cricketing legends, just amazing.
It'll be a moment that he cherishes for the rest of his life. And also, too, let's talk about Pat Cummins. A lot of conjecture also about the captaincy role. They get the Poms out for 147 and sitting pretty day two at 7 for 343. Let's have a listen to this little grab now from Pat Cummins with his DRS review.
Pat Cummins has decided to review, given not out.
Okay, can we go to onside hotspot, please, Gabba?
Yeah, sure.
You make a decision now.
You know the best thing Pat Cummins did yesterday?
What's that?
He lost the toss. Because it was one of those tosses, wasn't it, that much has been made about England deciding to bat first and whether they should have or not. Yeah, dampish, overcast, rain forecast, not much cricket under the belt. One of those tosses that you didn't mind losing and having a bowl first. And, of course, Joe Root won it and chose to bat. And with England getting rolled, you'd have to say the wrong decision. So he had a great day. Pat not only losing the toss, but then went on to take Pfeiffer.
Yeah, 5 for 38, if you don't mind. And I mean, it's his first time he's ever taken a Pfeiffer against the Poms. But I just like the way that he captained the side. You know, he brought Mitchell Stark on for a couple of overs, brought himself into the setup quite early. You know, he worked himself around with Josh Hazlewood. Another first as well for Cam Green getting his first Test wicket, which is obviously a great moment. But, you know, Australia were right on top, right from ball one. They started well, and they've continued through those 2 days.
They certainly have. And how often do we see the first session at the Gabba set the tone for a series? England haven't had a great record here. They've won 6 tests since 1986-87, and the Gabba has generally never been kind to them, and certainly hasn't been for the first 2 days. And their batting yesterday was just atrocious. What
is it about the Poms where they can dominate all over the world and they come out to Australia and they struggle? Is it the wicket? Is it the bounce? Is it the pressure of playing against their old enemy?
Well, firstly, you've got to give credit to the Aussie bowlers. I thought they were superb. Remember, they've been playing, a lot of them been playing white ball cricket and won the World T20 World Cup. But there hasn't been much red ball cricket being played. But, geez, you wouldn't know the way Pat Cummins, who, as you said, took Pfeiffer, and Josh Hazlewood backed him up. I mean, they were just relentless. They barely bowled a bad ball between them. It gave England nothing, and the pressure was just too great. The England batsmen, who everyone's short of a gallop, just had no answer.
So we get to the end of day one, light stops play, or bad light stops play. We get to the next morning, and then if we fast forward to stumps on day two, David Warner, outstanding 90 for him, and he had a few chances, a few opportunities. We looked down, Marnus Labuschagne got a beautiful 74. But I guess the talking point for day two, Travis Head, a lot of pressure under him. They could have gone either way with Travis Head or Usman Khawaja. 112 not out. The emotion when he got his 100 was pretty special.
What an amazing 100 for Travis Head. He'd only averaged 20 in first-class cricket at the Gabba previously to this innings. And there was much conjecture over whether him or Usman Khawaja should get the number 5 spot. It was pretty much a 50-50 call by the sound of it. But, geez, it was a good call. 100 off 85 balls. Thank you very much. He did it in style. And when he came in, Australia were, after losing Marcus Harris early, there was a great partnership between Warner and Labuschagne. But they were 3 for 150 odd, and there was still a bit in the wicket, and it could have gone either way at that stage. But Travis Head basically took the game away from England.
Yeah, they lost 4 for 47, I think it was, at one stage, and all of a sudden, the Aussies could have got bowled out for about 250, which would have been a lot better in terms of where the game could have sat. But at the moment, the Poms are under pressure. I'm just thinking about, no Anderson, no Broad. They've definitely made the wrong call there. If these guys are fully fit, what the hell are they doing? Why aren't these two superstars of world cricket playing?
Well, in years to come, people always talk about the decision of Nasser Hussain to send Australia in back in the early 2000s. The fact that neither Broad or Anderson, who are both fit and raring to go...
Are they fit?
That's the mail, that they're both fit and raring to go. There was talk that Jimmy Anderson had a calf injury. I think that's a smokescreen. I think they were both fit and ready to go. I think England are trying to be too clever by half. I think they were just saving them for the Adelaide Test, thinking that in those conditions, rather than have two of the older guys in the squad, and this is England's number 1 and 2 wicket taker of all time.
1,100 Test wickets between them, and they were
sitting in the shed,
in the nets, which we saw in our footage. Bowling in the nets off their full run at decent pace.
Just an amazing decision. And look, they got it wrong, let's face it. Imagine Dave Warner, who played beautifully today, had a lot of luck, which we'll get into in a minute. But when he found out that Stuart Broad wasn't playing, he must have grown 2 feet. He'd been all over him. You did it in our coverage the other day. 7 times he's got him out.
104 deliveries.
For only 35 runs.
Correct.
In the last series. All over him like a cheap suit, he was. And to not have to worry about that. And the other thing, we can get into lots of things, but the England quicks rarely went around the wicket to him today, which I found amazing because Broad, most of the time,
got him out
in that sequence, knocked him over going around. They didn't go to that much today.
Nicked him off, bowled him through the gate, LBW.
Neither did they do that to Travis Head, who averages 24 to bowlers coming around the wicket at him. So tactically, I think all at sea, England, and the team selection. I mean, Jack Leach, they just went after him, showed him absolutely zero respect today. Surely Stuart Broad or Jimmy Anderson would have been better value on that wicket in those conditions than Jack Leach.
100%. I want to touch on Mark Wood. I think he's the shining light of England. I'm a huge fan. Beautiful action. That clean run up. You know, he hits the crease hard. That brace front foot. 150 Ks on average, Mark Wood. Didn't have a lot of luck, but I tell you what, he gave it to the Aussies today.
Yeah, he's got a great attitude. Just steams in all day. He gave Travis Head a few nasty moments, didn't he? Got him in the arm before that, and then that beamer could have been really ugly. Luckily, it just clipped his glove before it hit him in the chin. Otherwise, it could have been real nasty. But, look, I thought...
hit him in the Travis Head.
Yeah, Ollie hit Travis Head, got hit in the head, all right. I thought Ollie Robertson was the pick of the bowlers today for England until he got a bit of what looked like a hamstring strain. They were going down like 10 pins, weren't they? Ben Stokes had a bad knee, soldiered on bravely, but he's well short of a gallop. He hasn't played since March. It was pretty much left to Mark Wood and Chris Wokes in the end there. They were dropping like 9 pins. Hopefully, Australia's only 7 out. They've still got a bit of work to do tomorrow, England, but hopefully the injury to Stokes isn't that bad.
Yep.
We don't lose him for the series, and hopefully Ollie Robinson's okay to go. Because 3 for today. I thought he did a really good job. Had no luck at all. I mean, some of the England catching was atrocious today and fielding. That a lot of chances went by. It must be said Australia did have the rub of the green, definitely
tough day for the Poms. It's always been a tough 2 days. Let's hope that they can pull their stuff back tomorrow and get the Aussies out cheaply and make a good game. But we'll get to our special guest after the break, which is one that I'm looking forward to. But around the world, there's been some pitch invaders. Sam Kerr, did you see that overnight?
I did. How good was it? It reminded me of a good mate of ours, Andrew Simons. Put the shoulder into the pitch invader, put him down, knocked him over. That's how pitch invaders should be treated.
Absolutely.
Just get the shoulder into them and
cleaned up by a girl, which is even better. So let's have a listen, if you missed it, to what happened. I'll tell you what the reason why they're booing is because she's absolutely nailed this guy, flattened him, and then got a yellow card.
Yeah, they were booing the streak, and then the crowd went up and cheered her. And how do you get a yellow card for that?
It's rubbish.
Should have been. What about Simo's?
Should have been cheered.
Simo never got a yellow card, did he?
Should we have a listen to that?
Yeah, that's sensational.
Let's go.
There's a reason that Sreesanth has had to put out a bowling this ball, and it hasn't got any closing.
Streaker, we don't know at the moment if it's a boy or a girl streaker. He could have done some injury to Andrew Simons there because he seemed to run straight at him and all of a sudden he was on his back.
Well, the hardest thing for a streaker, right? Richie Beno...
Did Richie have his binoculars with him at the time?
Well, I remember Michael
was a boy or a
said,
girl.
It's a boy, Rich. I mean, the bloke must have been hung like a light switch. Not a good thing, is it? If you're going to be a streaker, you've got to make sure that you're...
I reckon that's the worst insult.
Yourself.
If you're going to run out there and streak and the commentators don't know if you're a boy or a girl, that's a massive fail.
Yeah, get your kit back on real quick.
Yeah, that was... I remember that. I was there. We were all there that day. Simo dropped the streak. A couple of streakers today at the Gabba.
There were.
What's going on up there?
They had that.
Too many rums.
They did have their kit on, though, which is probably good.
Yeah, what's the point?
Well, you're going to get fined 5K for running on.
Well, if you're going to do it, might as well do it with your gear off.
Well, may as well get someone to pay and everyone chip into the kitty. Make some money out of it. Yeah, it's been an indifferent day for the Poms, certainly for the streakers. I really enjoyed that one.
What about the Queensland
Sam
Police?
Kerr.
Speaking of streakers.
Yeah, what was that? Talk us through that,
Well,
Buzz.
the Queensland Police, they're getting cheeky these days. They put this out yesterday on their social platforms on Twitter.
Here we go.
Queensland Police are launching an investigation into a group impersonating a test batting order at the Gabba.
They put that on their social media platform.
Yeah.
Very good. Good
Pretty
work,
obvious who they're
Queensland.
referring. They didn't find them, did they?
Well,
they better find. Let's hope they find them tomorrow. Otherwise, this test is going to wrap up pretty quickly.
Yeah, they've gone missing, haven't they? All right, well, stay with us. Plenty to chat about after break and a very special guest and one of my heroes. Welcome back to the Brett Lee Podcast, segment 2, and I love this segment, Buzz, because this is where we get to chat to some special guests, none bigger and better than this, Allan Border. Listen closely to these stats. 156 test matches, 27 hundreds, 2 double hundreds if you don't mind, over 11,000 runs with an average of over 50. This is test cricket. 66 years of age and was born in Cremorne, Sydney. And I guess what? There's something that AB and I have in common. We both play for the same club, Mossburn. Allan Border, welcome, mate. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. How are you?
Oh, mate, very good introduction. Thanks for having me. And it was Mossman, born in Mossman, wasn't it? Or was it at Cremorne?
Well, they say Cremorne, but I was happy to go with Mossman, actually. It sounds better.
Yeah, whatever.
Don't they say if don't the Cremorne people say if you live in Mossman, you're camping? Isn't it a bit posher down there?
Zeros to the house price.
That's right.
What about AB? I get asked all the time, and this is one of the things that people often say: if you had one batsman to bat for your life, who would it be? And 9 times out of the 10, the answer is this man.
Yep.
So, it's.
Does that mean I'm a good blocker?
I don't know what does it mean to you when people say that? Because that's the answer I get.
Well, I suppose I tried to make myself hard to get out, and you sort of soon learn what works for you and how to progress through the ranks of cricket. You know, when you're 15, 16, you might be in a bit more of a thrashing machine, and then all of a sudden you start to realise that that's not going to be successful as you go through the grades. So you start refining your game slowly but surely, and I basically knew that I was never going to be, one of those flamboyant type cricketers, like, say, a David Gower or Brian Lara, that type of cricketer. I just knew I had to play a different way. So, yeah, make yourself hard to get out. And if you're hard to get out and you're batting out in the middle, well, you're going to score runs.
We'll get to your career in a second, AB, but just want to touch on, obviously, the obvious. It's the Ashes, Australia versus the Poms. What an amazing couple of days. How have you seen it from where you've been sitting?
Look, I've really enjoyed the way the Australians have played in particular. They've been very positive, very aggressive with the ball in hand, and today with the bat. I thought they've done all the facets really well. I mean, there's things that will get better as the series goes on, you hope, with your side, but I thought the bowling yesterday was just absolutely outstanding, given that a lot of the boys have come off, short form cricket, white ball cricket, but they were relentless in their lines and lengths, and the way they just pressurised that England batting line up. The greatest start you could probably get in an Ashes series, getting the wicket first ball, and all of a sudden the momentum and the crowd and everything, the atmosphere just lifts, doesn't it? And so a huge start, a great day with the ball, and I thought today they just worked the England bowlers over. Not to say that the England bowlers didn't create enough chances to have Australia in more trouble and themselves more in the game, but I just thought the way the batting went about their work, they let the ball go well, they looked for the loose balls to score, they got some partnerships going, and then with a tiring attack late in the day, they really cashed in with Travis Head. So, yeah, it's been like a 9.5 out of 10 performance so far.
Yeah, on Travis Head, and as a man who used to roll with the mo quite a bit, yourself, AB, it must have pleased you to see another mustachioed middle order batsman amongst the runs. What a great innings!
Well, that's why I reckon he's got all those runs. He's finally, given away the fresh face look. He's got a bit of rough and tumble about him. He's got the mo going, and how well did he play? I mean, late in the day, that tiring attack, the ball is old, so it was a perfect scenario for Travis Head to go to the crease, and he scratched around a little bit early on, as you tend to do. We talked about it's a pretty hard pitch to sort of start your innings on, but he had that one over off Stokes, wasn't it, where he got that short ball and he pounded in front of point there, front of square for a boundary. Got 3 boundaries off the over, I think it was, and away he went. Under a run of ball 100 in an Ashes Test match on a difficult Gabba surface, does it get any better? I mean, that's fairy tale stuff.
Yeah, especially when he came in, and the chips were down for the Aussies, 4 for 47. It could have gone either way, but he definitely stood up. Look, I do get often asked a lot about you. People say, what's it like working with Allan Border? And I've obviously known you for quite some time now. You know, me coming through the junior cricket, then obviously playing for Australia, and now working with you for Fox Sports. And I just tell everybody he's the most loveliest guy in the world. He's so calm and chilled. Why were you known as Captain Grumpy? Was this some bravado you were putting on? Was this you back in your heyday?
Well, I suppose you don't like poor performance from yourself, firstly, I suppose, and from others, and it used to sort of make the blood boil a little bit if you're just not giving 100% of yourself, and your teammates are just just not doing it for you. I mean, you think about today's cricket. I mean, how frustrated would Joe Root be out of today's stuff? Some of the catches that were missed and the opportunities missed. I mean, it just makes your blood boil as a captain, and I would have shown that out in the field, whereas he seemed to stay pretty calm. But I sort of wore my heart on the sleeve a little bit, particularly when you go and talk to the media later on. You're not happy, and so you cop the tag. But it's not my general demeanour to be grumpy all the time. I just I don't like losing. Who does?
No, AB, I've never seen you grumpy. I was unfortunate to play against you a few times. You may have got a little stroppy at times there. But I tell you what would have given you the tom tits was one of your fast bowlers knocking the pegs over with a no ball. Oh. My old mate across me here, let's be honest, has been known to do that before. What Guilty. About Ben Stokes to Warner today? That would have made you grumpy.
Oh, that would have been, look, that would have been a major sort of hands on hips, throw the cap on the ground type scenario, that one. Because how often, Buzzard, and you know this, going to net practice and you watch Brett Lee running in and they always urge down the pitch, don't they? Yeah. They're always bowling over that front line. And how often are we telling them, move it back, boys, move it back, you're bowling no balls. Then, of course, it happens in a match. Of course, that's when the old steam comes out the ears because it just happens in the nets. So what happens in the nets generally tends to follow in the game. So... Yep, you shake your head. It's been going on for about 100 years, I reckon.
There's a bit of talk in the media. I just read a few articles after play. People are sort of half blaming the umpire. Apparently, there's a few no balls. Their system was broken down where they can, coming from the broadcaster up to the third umpire. So they weren't calling no balls for every ball. And people were saying, that was the umpire's fault because they should have told Ben Stokes he was up over the line, 3 or 4 balls before that. Surely the player's got to take responsibility.
Player's got to take responsibility, but if you, the bowler, say, I mean, and you're running in and your sort of rhythm's not quite right because he hasn't played a lot of cricket, has he, Ben Stokes? And your first 2 deliveries you bowl, way over like they must have been. Most of the time, going back in time, the umpire would have said to you, Ben, you're just pushing up a little bit too far, mate. You need to bring it back, otherwise I'm going to have to start calling it. And the umpire used to work with the bowler like that. But obviously, technology now, and the third umpire was supposed to have this technology in place where they could call the no balls, and the main umpires could just concentrate on what the main action was happening, down the other end of the pitch. So, a little bit of blame maybe, but at the end of the day, the bowler, it's not that hard, is it, Binger, just to stay behind that little white line on the front there?
Well, it sounds like it should be easy, of course, but when you're running in, I guess, of 26 to 30 metres, then sometimes you can overstep it, a bit like a long jumper, a triple jumper. AB, we always hear about legends of the game, and we also hear about characters of the game. Now, we had some wonderful characters. We've got Warney, who obviously is world-class, but one name that springs to mind is the great Merv Hughes. A guy that I know that you've publicly backed, a million times with his hard work and his work ethic. Some funny moments of him sticking his tongue in your ear. What was Merv like?
Well, I mean, he was just one of those guys that, he's the perfect teammate in so many ways because he keeps things very, very light-hearted, in the dressing room, and when he hasn't got the ball in his hand, he's like the 12-year-old pest. And just always doing, little annoying things, I suppose, around the group, but just keeps things very light-hearted. But at the same time, you stick the cricket ball in his hand and, he's on. He wants to bite your nose off to get you out. He's just all over you. Something's going to happen with Merv with the ball in his hand because he bowls bounces and he's chirping away at the batsman and things are happening. And he's just the perfect guy to have in your team when you mix that with a couple of other fast bowlers. And with the three of them sort of working together, with Merv being the hit man, Harry, buying lots of bounces, very uncomfortable, out there batting against him, and there's chirp and things going on. It's good as a captain to have that sort of bloke in your team, because you take the ball out of his hand and he's back to being the village idiot. So, he was just a fantastic guy to have around, because you knew bowling, he's 110%, and then around the dressing room, as you know, boys, it gets a bit tight and tense at times, and it's good to have that sort of character around a dressing room to just sort of take the tension out of the place.
I think my first time I met Merv Hughes, I was playing in a PM's 11, and Merv was sort of in the coaching role and just making sure that the players are okay. And he goes, "Youngster, your job is to go out and have a look at the weather. Come in every 15 minutes to let me know if it's going to rain." And I'd come in and say, "Oh, Merv, it looks like there might be getting some rain." And you get a couple of beers and scull the 2 beers back to back. Oh,
double Corona.
He's just a superstar, isn't he?
Yeah. Hey, but you averaged over 50 in Test cricket. Speaking of fast bowlers, some of the bowlers you facing us, that West Indian attack, were just unbelievable. We mentioned how good Hazelwood and Cummins were. Different types of bowlers, equally relentless with their line and length. But what was it like facing that quartet or 5 or 6 West Indian bowlers back in the day when they were at their best?
Yeah. Look, it was difficult. I mean, that's the simple answer, I suppose. You got a little bit used to it, but at the same time, you're trying to win cricket matches. You're trying to score your runs as quick as you can to sort of set the game up, etc. So, but it was just, as you said, that relentless barrage. Some teams have had, 2 fast bowlers or 2 bowlers in particular that could sort of keep the pressure on you, and then there's the third, fourth bowlers would release a little bit of pressure. And so, that's how the game was played. You get through the number 1 or number 2, like I say in New Zealand, for instance. You knew Richard Hadley was a gun and a really good fast bowler in his own right. But what happened after him was a couple of throttles back. So you could sort of sit on Richard a little bit and try and attack the other guys. But that was the sort of a little bit of the norm. Teams had 2, sometimes 3, real quality bowlers. But West Indies with that 4 pace, all quality bowlers, it was just relentless, and it was hard not to make a mistake along the way. As a batsman against that sort of bowling, and you make one mistake, and a lot of the time you're in the dressing room sort of contemplating what could have been. So, this relentless barrage of and they just had a production line of fast bowlers, didn't they, over about 15 years. And then, of course, the other side of the equation, they used to be able to score runs pretty quickly too, with Desmond Haynes and Gordon Grange and Richards as their top
Legends.
3. People forget about how good. They keep talking about the fast bowlers that the West Indies had, and that was their key component. Their ability to take 20 wickets in any conditions, but their batting wasn't too shabby either, just quietly. So, if there's been a better team than them, you probably. If you put Bradman in any cricket team that he played in, they'd have a chance. But most other teams, series of 5 games, anywhere in the world you like, I back that unit from the West Indies against any of them.
Yeah, quality players, of course. AB, one question we ask our guests is to try to find out a bit more about the person away from the spotlight, whether it's a cricketer or whether it's a media personality. What does Allan Border do when you're not commentating on cricket to I guess, make yourself happy?
Yeah, look, I live here in Brisbane on acreage, so there's always, a little bit of gardening sort of stuff to do, which, a lot of people sort of, take a bit of a backward step when I say, I quite like, gardening. I'm not Alan Searle, but I do.
You got the ride-on mower?
I get out there and, mow, edge, do bits and pieces and bark and all that sort of cape around, a couple of acres. There's always something to do. So, I quite like that because it's quite a mindless sort of activity, especially sitting on a ride-on mower for a couple of hours. You kill 2 hours very quickly doing that. So I quite enjoy that sort of caper. Obviously, I play a bit of golf. That's my sort of sporting endeavour these days. The cricket days are long gone, and anything too active I find a bit tough. But golf is the passion. but it's not loving me back, Buzzard.
No.
It's
What's your handicap,
it's
AB?
getting harder and
What are you
harder and
off?
harder to shoot a score.
What are you shooting off?
I'm an 11 handicapper, but I just sort of have dreams of being sort of low single figure, but it's not going to happen.
I reckon
Other
cricketers.
times I've gone past.
Yeah, cricketers who are golfers are gluttons for punishment. Now, cricket can be a very cruel game. Ask Rory Burns yesterday. All the preparation he would have done. All of a sudden he's sitting, as I said, sitting in the dressing room after 3 minutes of the Ashes going, what the hell happened there? The golf's not far behind.
It's not far behind because, the ball's just sitting there. It's just waiting to get hit. But, there's only a little bit in this way or that way, and it can shoot off, 45 metres off target and into the trees, and you can rack up some serious numbers from there. So, yeah, it doesn't take much to sort of, score 100 in golf, that's for sure.
Hey, AB, just a couple of days ago, something that must have brought you immense pleasure was your statue. And I know that you had your whole family out. I think your son came out from, was it the UK to come out for the special moment?
Singapore based these
from
days.
From Singapore, yeah.
Macquarie Bank, he's over there. He's been there for about 10 years. And we've always had the ability to sort of, fly up there. It's not too far from Brisbane. It's about a 7-hour flight. So, we go up and catch up with him, 2-3 times a year, and he does the same. But over the last few years, it's been difficult because of the COVID scenario. And, he's been married and has had a little girl. So we've got a grandchild, number one.
Lovely.
But, last time we saw Sophia, she was 5 months old, and then now she's 2.5. So it was a bit like the Truman Show. We were watching this kid grow up on TV, via FaceTime or whatever it was. So it's really good to see her and Dino's wife, in live again after 2 years. And good to see him too. We hadn't seen him for a couple of years, and he's beefed up a bit. But it's been great. And he came out specifically because he wanted to be there for that unveiling of the statue, and also he's a mad cricket fan and hadn't been to the Brisbane Test for quite a few years, so he was keen to come out and watch that too. So he was prepared to do 2 weeks quarantine to sort of make sure he got all that in. So that in itself must have been a nightmare with a 2-year-old.
Well, I mean, I've seen the statue, and for those that haven't seen it, do yourself a favour and go and have a look, because I reckon they've got you down pat. You've got the beautiful Mykonos tan, but the facial expressions are unbelievable. Are you happy with it?
I think Linda Klarfeld is the sculptor's name, and she's only fairly young, but her attention to detail and very fastidious. And she didn't know much about cricket. I knew less about sculpture, but we sort of made a good pair because we're pretty sort of fastidious about getting it right. Because I'd sort of look at things she was doing and I'd say, well, cricketers don't do that. I didn't have short sleeve shirt. I always wore a long sleeve shirt. So there was a sort of good combination that we worked well together. But what she's done as far as capturing the likeness, because we've all seen the horror shows, haven't we, with some of the busts you see. One that springs to my mind is the one of Ronaldo. He's not a bad bird, Ronaldo, but bloody hell, they've hammered him in that bust.
He had like one on the chip, one on the dip. Chips and dips, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's very crap. So I just had visions of that, So, but what Linda has done, just captured those little nuances that unmistakably me. The shot, just putting all that together, in balance. What she's done is brilliant. So yeah, the final product. I was a bit hesitant at the start when I was sort of told it was happening. I didn't get much of a choice. It was like, whether you say yes or no, mate, it's going ahead. So I decided, you're better off, if you can't beat them, join them. So I'm really happy I did, and it's turned out really well.
Well-deserved honour, mate. I thought the statue looked fantastic. I'll tell you what I did notice. You've got a long stride in the statue. Did you have to pose for that? I don't reckon your hammies would have held on to getting that far down the deck these days.
Well, I've got to tell everyone a bit of a secret there. Look, the photograph is a shot of me, playing, but Linda needs a 360 view. Don't forget you can look for from all different angles at that statue. Whereas if you look at a shot on a photograph, it's just 180 degrees type thing. So I had to take my youngest son, Lachlan. He's the only one who's got whites. Actually, he still plays cricket here in Brisbane, and so he's got a set of whites. So he became the sort of the male model because he's not
stunt double
figure of that I had 25, 30 years ago, which is when the photo was taken. So he became the body double. So he can probably get down a little bit lower than I used to be able to. So hence the shot looks it looks pretty special through that offside.
I'm looking forward to seeing Buzz's statue at some stage.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what they're going to have to do. The way my waistline's expanding, I have to stump up for a bit more copper and bronze by the time that happens.
It's pretty expensive.
They won't have to waste any money on hair, though, AB.
It's expensive at the moment. Hey, AB, just before we let you go, mate, we really appreciate your time. We couldn't get you on here as one of Australia's greatest captains without asking you the question. But I know it's only 2 days in, but Pat Cummins done a good job so far. Are you happy with what you've seen? And I guess what's going to happen in the future? Is he potentially going to go on to be a great Australian captain?
Look, it's funny. I know things, have fallen his way, obviously over the first 2 days. But don't you reckon there's something about there's a bubble around that team at the moment? They're happy campers, and to me, part of that captaincy role is creating that environment, around the team, and sort of making them, just sort of feel as one unit. So if you're hunting as a pack, as they say, you're going to be a lot more dangerous opposition. And I think Patrick, he seems to be able to, engender that into that group very easily. Just he's a naturally popular guy within that group. And to me, the tactical side of things, he'll get better at, and he's got good support there behind the scenes with some senior guys, like Steve Smith, and he'll go to him regularly. But it's more that that demeanour around the dressing room and the off-field stuff that he'll just brain. And as he gets better and more experienced, I can see a pretty good era happening for Australian cricket under Pat Cummins.
AB, it's been a train wreck for England so far these first 2 days. Great 2 days for Australia. It's only very early in the series. They didn't play Anderson, they didn't play Broad. Can you see them coming back from this?
It's going to be tough, mate. You've always got to start fresh, haven't you? Each test match you go into, and they're a side that have come back in recent years from being 1-0 down in series. But our guys, they look like they're fired up for the series, and they're ready to go. On what we've seen in the first couple of days. So it's going to be hard for England. I sort of question tactics. If Broad and Anderson are anywhere near 100% fit, it's a strange one to leave them out of that Gabba test match, given that, the conditions we're looking at. It's pretty grassy, it's overcast, or it was on day one. The ball's going to swing around a little bit, do something. And you've got two of the world's best, sitting on the sidelines. It's an odd decision, that one. So, but from here, when you look at the spinner, the way Australians approached Leach, they're not going to let him settle into too many games he plays. So, what was his figures today? 90 odd off 11, and he got the 1 wicket. But
went the journey one for 95.
It's going to be hard, but still a few days to go. I'm not counting chickens just yet, but certainly Australia, right in the driving seat.
Well, AB, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. 156 test matches, 2700s, and we can't forget that 205 against the Kiwis back in 1987, and of course the 200 versus this very team, the Poms, and that was at Headingley back in 1993. You're an amazing captain, incredible player, and I reckon an even better bloke. So, mate, thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you shortly.
Thanks, boys. Yeah, absolute pleasure. Easy done.
Cheers, AB.
Buzz, what a legend. What a legend of the game. Superstar.
Yeah, well, he's the godfather of Australian cricket, as we call him. And you know what? I was lucky enough to play with and against some fantastic players, but lucky enough to play a few times against AB. He was a tough man on the field, but off the field, an absolute gentleman and a ripping bloke.
I just can't see him being grumpy. I know I've seen him on TV, and I remember that time. I should have asked him, actually. I remember that time when he gave Billy McDermott, a massive spray. A massive spray.
I think that was at Edgbaston, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was on an English tour somewhere, and he he took umbrage to something Billy McDermott said to him and wanted to get him on the next QF7 home or QF1 home.
That again, on the next playing home.
Oh, tough man diary when it came to cricket, but a giant of the game and a giant of a man.
And when he walks into the room, everyone stands up because of the respect that they've got for Allan Border.
Well, how about, we're lucky enough to work with a great team at Fox Cricket, but the respect that guys like Shane Warne and Adam Gilchrist and Michael Vaughan's, AB's Michael Vaughan's hero. There's a great England captain, and the rest of the legends in our commentary team all have for AB. Really says it all.
Yeah, well, for someone like me coming from Mount Warrigal to interview and have him on our podcast, it's a very special moment for me. So, yeah, a great afternoon for us. But stick around, much more to come after this short little break. Thanks, everyone, for listening in to this episode of the Brett Lee Podcast. And if you like what you're hearing, feel free to leave a review of the episode wherever you're listening in. And next episode, we'll probably be into the second test down in Adelaide. So make sure that you send in your emails to the Brett Lee Podcast at news.com.au or get involved in the WhatsApp group. Now, Buzz, quickly, predictions. What's going to happen this test and the test to come?
Well, I think this test is shot to pieces for England. They can't possibly win it. Well, anything's possible, I suppose, but it's hard to see them winning 196 runs in arrears. They've still got to take 3 wickets and Travis Head's in, and they've got some injuries. I think what they have to do is get out in their second innings and try and get some confidence for the rest of the series. They've been down 1-0 before in a lot of series. And remember, India were 1-0 down last year and ended up beating Australia in the series. So that's what they have to do tomorrow. They've got to get out there, show some fight, and get a bit of confidence. Yeah, I think they cooked this test, but they might fight back in Adelaide. Anyway, good fun, Buzz, as always. What do we say? Until next time, keep your chins up.
Keep your chins up. We'll see you soon.